Sonata live stream, and I'm tuning in on a couple platforms here, so give me a second.
Recording in progress.
There's that. There's that. Quick sound check. All right. There's that. Let me check YouTube. Looks good. No one's here yet, and that's fine. All right, friends. So we are, well, first of all, you'll notice Wesley is gone today in our composition lab. And that is because he's sick, unfortunately. And so last night he texted me, he's like, I'm gonna have to cancel. And I'm like, oh, I got you covered. I know what I'll do. This was not planned actually at all. But as you know, many of you know, my student David is performing the Liszt Piano Sonata this Friday for the Key Learners Club, a sponsored event. And I had a pencil somewhere. But basically, I thought, why don't we talk about composition from the analytical standpoint of motivic development and how to transform a theme, talking about the Liszt Sonata and the form and the structure of the Liszt Sonata, so that you can understand it better, because those of you that are coming to the performance will get that much more out of it. And even if you're not coming to the performance, you're still going to learn a lot and probably be able to take a lot of ideas you get from today into your own repertoire. So like, no matter how you're coming out of all of this, there's going to be a lot of value here. Thanks, Rosie. Good to see you. Let me double check that. Okay. Yes. I'm streaming on YouTube at the same time. Like, why not get double the traffic? So here we go. This is going to be fun. How many of you have heard the Liszt Sonata before? You can just type yes in the chat. I know there's not a lot of you here, but yes, David, nice. This is not the David that's going to be performing the piece, just for clarity. No, don't know. If you don't know, you probably haven't heard it. It's like a famous piece if you're like a classical pianist or just super into classical music, but it's not a super famous piece outside of that realm, whereas like Liszt, Second Rhapsody, like you've probably heard that, just because it's so famous in the whole world, but like his sonata is not really that famous. So anyway, let's jump right in. So this piece I could talk about for like probably 12 to 15 hours straight, like not even joking. Say hi to my gingerbread man. So we're not going to do that today. It's still going to be just an hour call. But what I thought would be cool is if I break down like the basics of how it's structured. And I have no clue where Wesley's at in terms of his progression of when he normally teaches these. I didn't even check with him on that. I know he talked about strings recently, but I'm not sure if he's covered motivic development or developing melodies yet. And so I mainly want to talk about that. Oh, not yet. Thank you, Ruskin. Okay. Well, he'll be really appreciative then I lay the groundwork here. So the cool thing about the Liszt Sonata is it's a little bit about it. It's over half an hour long in most performances of it, dedicated to Robert Schumann. And what does it say here? I don't actually remember the exact date it was published, but mid-1800s. It was not like a super early work of his, but it wasn't like quite as late either, in the sense that like he wrote it and kind of revised it over the years. So I think when it was published, it appeared to be later than it really was. And like maybe the whole thing was finished later, but a lot of the piece was actually written long before it was officially published. So anyway, it's a very, very long work. You can see this whole book is one piece. You know, it's not something that you would learn quickly. And Matthias, by the way, since you're studying the Schumann fantasy, Liszt dedicated this to Schumann, and and Schumann dedicated the fantasy to Liszt, so that they were each other's gifts back and forth. Kind of a fun little note there. So anyway, you would think that a piece this long has like 14 million different sections and themes and all that, and it kind of does, but let me make sure I'm speaking correctly. Yes. You'd be shocked to find out that actually the entire piece is right here. First page. There's really, truly no material in it, or almost no material in it, that isn't in some way derived from everything you get in the first page. And that's why motivic development is something that we all need to understand. Because Liszt gives you 3 totally distinct motives, or tunes or themes, in the first page alone, and then he transforms them, or he develops them in such a way that by making one change at a time, it actually becomes an entirely different tune. So on a first listen, you might not even realize that the theme 6 minutes into the piece is related to the theme down here. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. And once you hear it, you can't unhear it. And yeah, I see Matthias here, quite similar to Brahms, indeed. And Brahms and Liszt got it from Beethoven, who got it from Mozart, who got it from Haydn, who got it from Bach. I mean, it just kind of goes back and back and back. Now, motivic development, definitely in the way we think of it today, mostly started with Beethoven. There's hints of it in Bach, and certainly like in its own way, it does that. But in the sense of like we're taking a tune and making it a different tempo and different key and different texture to make it a whole different section, that we didn't really see in Bach. He developed melodies in a different way through counterpoint and in like fugues and things like this, but not in the same way that Beethoven did. And so Beethoven really laid the groundwork for the Romantic composers. And as Wesley will probably point you out in future weeks and classes, that then opened the door for the 20th century for people like Stravinsky, Prokofiev, Webern, whoever, like pretty much everyone in some way or another to develop motifs. So let's talk a little bit about what that is. Basically, let me just play you first the 3 main ideas of this piece, and we'll show you a few examples of how we can make a change to make it sound entirely different. So I'll kind of go backwards here. This actually appears at measure 13. Well, the pickup to 14, actually, but let me just play the tune in the left hand. Quick sound check. Can you hear? Good. I like seeing thumbs up. So, by the way, hello to my YouTube friends. We do have someone. Yay. Cool. So, here we go. Here's the tune. It's I never really counted it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 notes. So, that is the first, the first hearing of what would be the 3rd theme in this piece. And it has a little tail pickup to it, just 3 notes that kind of like bring you into it. And that's it. That's the tune. So it's 10 notes total. If you include the other 3, it's 13. Not highly significant right now. But now we get into thematic transformation, which is when you take that initial idea and you add something or change something or take away something to then make it feel like it's going somewhere or becoming something else. So the thing he does right after that is the exact same shape, and he just moves everything up 1 note on the grid. Let me make sure this is close enough that you all can hear really well. So, again, one more time, here's the original statement. Okay, now he moves every note up the same pattern, same rhythm, same everything, just every note is 1 key higher. Sorry. So again, actually, here's a fun oh my gosh, I can't words today. Exercise. I'm going to play both at the same time, so you can hear they align. They're going to sound really bad because one's on D and the other one's on E. So, and I can't play them in the same octave. I'll have to split the octaves. But you'll just hear they're aligned at least, even though they're dissonant. See, so you hear one and then you hear the next. So then he harmonizes it and puts a chord over it in the other hand. Like this. And then he goes to a whole new thing. Granted, I don't play this piece, so I'll make some mistakes here and there. David, that's why you're going to come to hear David play it on Friday. I know it, but I don't play it. So anyway, that's the first thing. That's a really easy transformation. It's just called a sequence, where you take the same notes and just move it up or down to different starting notes. That's it. It's the easiest kind of transformation. But now we'll look at a few. So we're about a page later. Yeah, almost exactly. Now, on first hearing, you might not even notice this. I mean, it's probably pretty obvious, but I'm still going to point it out. Listen to what comes right after this. There's that right there. Same theme. The only real change here is that first we had D, then E, now F sharp. So we're once again going higher. Next change though, and why it's a little bit more disguised, is that it has octaves this time instead of just single notes. And so when we add texture, we're adding thickness, and that causes it to feel a bit different. And we also have thicker chords in the right hand. And now instead of just ending on the last note, he adds a trill. And so it kind of causes you to not recognize it, but to almost feel like it's doing something different this time. So in context, and so on and so forth, and it goes crazy. Now, when I play this, I'm going to play about 4 measures of it and mess it up, and I want you to see if you recognize anything here. It's a lot more notes, obviously. Does anyone hear the same theme in that? Matthias heard it. David heard it. Cool. So if I take away the right hand, yes, left hand up higher. Yeah. Okay, so it's not in every note. Now he's mixing and matching, right? So here's the starting arpeggio. But now the second half. See, but he does it without the last note, because here it kind of just parks there. And he's just changed that last note by adding a trill. So that change like subconsciously sets us up to go, maybe that last note isn't actually part of it, because since it's different than the first statement, maybe it doesn't even belong. And that's exactly what he's trying to do, because here there is no finish. It's just done, right? And so left hand alone. So you have 4 times, each with a measure of what sounds like fluff to a degree, leading up to it. So for now, let's just call it fluff, and then the main third theme. And then fluff, main third theme. It's an A-B rhyme scheme 4 times in a row. Okay, and then you get a different melody on top of that, which sort of disguises the other one. And so on. Same thing with the A-B rhyme scheme. So they work together, and they're actually very classical in their structure. It just kind of feels like 2 and 4 and 8 bar phrases, just like you would hear in Mozart. So one more time. And it goes on and on. Okay, so you can see we get that whole thing off of this theme. It's like he's just set up his ability to do that. So let me show you one. We'll come back to this passage because the right hand and the left hand outside of that is not just fluff, and I'll back that up. But before we do that, let me show you one other way he uses this theme. It's laid out differently in this edition. That's annoying. I have two copies of it that are not matching. And I worked through all of the fingerings with David in the black copy, but then we changed to a different copy because it's more historically accurate. So anyway, so this is what we would call, well, there's actually multiple things going on here. The main thing is that we take a fast rhythm and we use the same shape of it, but we use it in a slower rhythm. So we take eighth notes and turn them into quarter notes. And everything then is proportionately the same thing. So we have eighth, 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 16th, 16th. Now we have quarter, 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 eighth, eighth, and so on. And then kind of this little tail that falls, and then long note. So you can see that this melody actually is just another transformation of the initial one. So let me show you that by playing the first statement at half speed. And now the one later, several minutes into the piece. And what do? Higher. And so on and so forth. See, so same theme, 3.5 octaves higher, and played stretched out twice as long. So there's two terms, augmentation and diminution. Augment means to make larger, right? Diminish means to make smaller. So if you use diminution on a rhythm, you're doubling the speed of it. So an eighth note would become a 16th note. If you're augmenting the rhythm, then an eighth note becomes a quarter note. So relatively speaking, the proportion is still there, but everything feels like it's totally different. And so you probably wouldn't even recognize this on first hearing if you're not super familiar with these themes, because not only is it that, but it's in a different key. Instead of minor